constantly broadcasting your thoughts, your insecurities, and your true intentions without making a single sound. Over half of all human communication is entirely unspoken. And today, we're giving you the tools to tune into that exact frequency.
Yeah, the source material we are examining today, it's this incredibly comprehensive corporate training manual on body language basics, and it operates on a central, just undeniable premise.
Which is?
Well, the choreographer Martha Graham actually captured it perfectly. She said, "The body never lies." Reading nonverbal cues is, it's identical to learning a foreign language. It provides a direct translation of the internal thoughts and feelings that our carefully chosen words are so often trying to conceal.
And the mission for this deep dive is to really shortcut your journey to fluency in that unspoken language.
Hmm.
We are extracting the most critical insights from this manual so you can read the room, identify hidden motives, and consciously project confidence in your own daily interactions. So, okay, let's unpack this, starting with the fundamental elements of human interaction.
The head, the hands, and the eyes.
Exactly. I mean, we all know the textbook cliches. Someone crosses their arms, they're feeling defensive. But the manual pushes us past these surface-level assumptions into something much more dynamic. And it starts with the simple act of nodding.
The nuance of the nod. It is a perfect illustration of how easily we mistranslate physical signals. The manual shares this great case study about a sales executive named Mark that highlights the danger here.
Oh, right, Mark's big pitch.
Yeah. So Mark is pitching a new strategy to a room of potential clients. He looks out, sees the audience nodding vigorously, and interprets this visual feedback as just overwhelming agreement. He feels so validated that he decides to extend his presentation.
He goes off script.
Right. He layers in more data points to fully cement what he thinks is his winning position.
And that assumption just completely backfires on him. Mark finishes the pitch feeling victorious, but only 2 people actually sign up. The rest of the room immediately packs up and bolts for the door.
Which is brutal.
It is. Mark thought nodding was a universal green light, but he completely ignored the velocity of the gesture. A slow, deliberate nod is a signal of genuine interest and active listening.
But a fast nod, which is exactly what Mark was seeing, acts as a polite fast-forward button. The listener is physically trying to hurry the speaker along, signaling deep impatience.
By adding more facts to his pitch, Mark was essentially pouring gasoline on an already burning fire of impatience.
It completely changes how you view a simple conversation when you realize you might be actively irritating the person you think you're engaging. And, the eyes function in a very similar way. They offer this involuntary window into the mechanics of the brain. Well, when you ask someone a question and they look to their left, they are neurologically accessing their memory. They are retrieving facts or visualizing an event that actually occurred.
But when their eyes shift to the right, they are accessing the imagination centers of the brain.
Exactly.
They are conjuring up a hypothetical scenario, guessing an answer, or, depending on the context of the conversation, actively constructing a lie.
The physical body acts as an extension of that internal processing. Like when we look at posture, we often hear about the defensive nature of crossed arms. But the lower body is equally communicative.
The legs.
Right. If a seated person crosses one leg over the other, resting it squarely on the knee, that specific closed formation often indicates stubbornness or an entrenched viewpoint. It is a literal physical barricade.
Whereas open body language, specifically exposing the palms of the hands, is an evolutionary signal of innocence and sincerity. You are demonstrating that you are unarmed and have absolutely nothing to hide.
It is a literal manifestation of being open. And what's fascinating here is that neuroimaging studies show the part of the human brain responsible for comprehending spoken words is the exact same area that processes physical gestures.
Wait, really? The exact same area?
Yes, these are not separate parallel systems. The brain interprets a crossed arm and a spoken sentence through the same neural pathway because, fundamentally, movement is language.
That neurological link completely reframes how we should approach every interaction. We are reading sentences through posture. But the manual also issues a pretty severe warning against making snap judgments.
Context is everything.
Right, we cannot isolate a single physical movement and assume we know the whole story. Context is the filter through which all body language has to be processed. There's a great case study demonstrating this involving 2 professionals, Sarah and John.
The Sarah and John scenario is perfect for illustrating the absolute necessity of establishing a baseline. So Sarah is interviewing John for a high-stakes position. The second John walks into the room, Sarah mentally writes him off.
Because of his posture.
Exactly. His shoulders are severely hunched, creating this tight, closed-off silhouette. She immediately logs this as a lack of confidence or a defensive attitude, assuming the rest of the interview is just going to be a formality.
But as the interview progresses, the physical data stops aligning with her initial judgment. John's head position demonstrates keen interest. His facial expressions are highly engaging. His verbal answers are brilliant.
So Sarah's left trying to reconcile this confident, capable professional with the hunched, defeatist posture.
And the missing piece of the puzzle was John's history. He had previously worked a highly demanding manufacturing job and had sustained a severe musculoskeletal upper back injury.
His posture was not broadcasting his attitude at all.
No, it was simply a physical limitation. This is the danger of the rash judgment. A closed-off stance might be a defense mechanism, but it could just as easily be arthritis, an autoimmune flare-up, or just a response to a freezing room.
Oh, the temperature one is huge. If the air conditioning is blasting, people will cross their arms to preserve core body heat, not because they are hostile to your ideas.
We fall into this exact same trap with fidgeting. The universal snap judgment for fidgeting is that the person is either incredibly nervous or entirely bored.
But the underlying physiology tells a much broader story there. Fidgeting is fundamentally an outlet for excess energy. It can be triggered by a temporary hormone imbalance, a sudden spike in blood sugar, or an attempt to self-soothe.
It's also a hallmark of neurodivergence.
Yes, frequently associated with attention deficit disorder. It is a tool for releasing tension, not necessarily a smoking gun for deception or disengagement. You really have to read the whole picture.
And a massive part of that picture is how individuals navigate the physical space around them. Western societies generally structure personal space into 4 distinct, heavily policed zones.
Think of it like a networking event in a large hotel lobby. If someone is standing 12 feet away from you, they are in the public zone. Your brain barely registers them as a participant in your immediate environment.
But if they step into about 4 feet, they have entered the social or business zone. That feels perfectly appropriate for a conversation with a colleague or a new acquaintance.
Right, but if that same new acquaintance steps inside an 18-inch radius, they have reached the personal zone. Unless they are family or a very close friend, your nervous system instantly flags that proximity as a threat.
And finally, anything from 0 to 6 inches is the intimate zone, reserved strictly for high-trust bonds. When a stranger violates those invisible boundaries, the body reacts with an immediate stress response.
Though we should point out, culture and background act as massive variables here.
Huge variables. What feels like a hostile invasion of space to someone raised in North America might be the standard, comfortable conversational distance for someone raised in parts of Southern Europe or Latin America.
We impose our own spatial rules on others and then judge them when they break boundaries they don't even know exist.
But the variables extend far beyond cultural geography. Gender plays a profound role in how we interpret and utilize space.
It really does. Men and women navigate physical boundaries and project nonverbal cues in starkly different ways, which just creates a breeding ground for miscommunication.
The concept of buffer zones is a perfect example of this. Generally speaking, men employ much larger personal distances. They physically take up more space and actively create larger buffer zones around themselves using objects.
Like a coat on a chair.
Exactly. A man might drape his coat over an adjacent chair or spread his files across a conference table to claim territory. And there is an unspoken societal expectation that this buffer zone will be respected.
Women, conversely, tend to utilize smaller personal distances in their interactions. They also create buffer zones, perhaps placing a purse on an empty seat. But the manual notes a really fascinating dynamic. Female buffer zones are routinely invaded or ignored.
People just move their stuff.
Yes. Coworkers or strangers are statistically far more likely to move a woman's purse out of the way to take a seat than they are to move a man's coat.
That dynamic of claiming versus yielding space extends directly to facial expressions, particularly the act of smiling. The manual explicitly points out that women smile far more frequently than men.
But this isn't an indicator of constant joy.
No, women frequently utilize the smile as a social lubricant. To be polite, to de-escalate tension, or simply to fulfill ingrained cultural expectations.
And this creates a dangerous loop of misinterpretation, largely driven by observer bias. The source material references a critical study from the American Psychological Association that exposes this perfectly.
The facial expression study.
Right. The study found that people judge the exact same facial expressions entirely differently based on the gender of the person making the face. When a man and a woman exhibit the exact same neutral or slightly frustrated expression, observers routinely categorize the woman as angrier and less happy than the man.
We are projecting our societal expectations onto their biology. If society expects a woman to smile, a neutral face is suddenly perceived as a hostile face.
Combine that expectation with the differing uses of space, and you get disastrous